Alrighty, guys. Good evening. Happy fucking Friday. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far, guys. Tonight we're going to be doing some... Yeah, I've been watching some other people's streams, guys. It definitely seems like MMR was tightened down maybe in the last week. Tonight it seems like it's going to be tighter than normal. Unless it's based on the geographic region that you're from. So maybe they're doing MMR tests depending on the area and not based on an overall player base. So different areas, different continents might have different tests at different times. So watching some people on the Ireland server today, and they definitely seem like they're getting harder games. So, yeah, might be a UK thing, UK-Ireland thing, or an EU, or it might be an NA thing, or it might just be everyone. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's funny watching some people struggle pretty hardcore against survivors that normally just run them over because they don't do very well. That being said, it could also be the weekend, so there's a common misconception. Ireland streamers, UK Ireland streamers will think that games get harder on the weekend. They don't. More casuals play on the weekend, not hardcore players. What happens is when there's no one to play against, as in the case of Ireland, which is a tiny, tiny fucking server, you're just matched with whoever the fuck is available. So if you're a high MMR killer, you'll just get eventually matched with mid MMR survivors, and you'll get easy games just because the queue will eventually expire, and you'll be put into a game with whoever's available for you. On the weekend, there's more people that play, and as such, there's a better distribution of people, more in line with whatever the normal skill-based distribution looks like. So you'll actually get people that are around your MMR, and you'll be able to queue with them. Yeah, surprise, and as such you'll have harder games because you're not used to playing against harder survivors that are around your MMR until your MMR goes down, or I guess you get better, or you're just really good to begin with. So, yeah. But we'll see how our games go tonight. Worst case scenario, we continue to play Nemesis. And not any Doctor, even though I want to play some Doctor. Good evening, though, guys. I'm making some coffee right now. Mm-hmm. Good, good, good. Anyways, yeah. So we gonna play some Doctor tonight? Probably not, but maybe. Also, next up on the list is probably Wraith again, but still not sure. Executioner is a shitbag. He's a C-grade killer, so he doesn't work at all. We do need to revisit the pig at some point too, and clown. And of course, actually play new killers like Spirit and Bird Lady. That apparently is super OP according to Otz, who plays against Streamer MMR. So, who plays in Streamer MMR, which means he just plays against basically normal people. Wouldn't want to make the game look bad, right? Uh-huh. Good, good, good. Let's see. My coffee's brewing right now, guys. Had some. We didn't have normal games yesterday. I dodged a lot of lobbies yesterday, and eventually just started taking them and ended up playing against people that were cheating, just for the sake of doing games. So, probably what we're gonna get tonight, but we will see on that. Let's take a look at the tubes, guys. King Charles, who also looks like he's about to die. Good. We talked about this yesterday for a prolonged period of time about succession and basically about people spending too much time trying to live out their glory years to the point at which they just die and they just take it with them. In the case of Queen Elizabeth, she died queen, right? Queen Elizabeth. And you can say what you want about that. Like, oh, she's a queen when she died, so queenly. But at the end of the day, she never actually got to help her, not her siblings, her prodigy. She never got to help her prodigy or her kids become rulers. Never got to help her kids become rulers and prepare them for that. And then, of course, they have their glory years ahead of them, which, they're 30 years younger than her, right? 20 years younger than her. We talked about this. Queen Elizabeth became queen at 26, and King Charles has become king at 72. Like, yeah. Yeah, and Queen Elizabeth, obviously the queen and king of UK isn't really the same as it used to be. They still have some say and sway politically, right? And now that they've become, in her glory years, when Queen Elizabeth was younger, she basically did a bunch of things, and when she became older, she just became basically a figurehead that just waves, and that's it. And as such, you could argue that Charles should have become king much younger than he currently is, because then he could have actually made a difference, where now he's getting to the point where he just wants to hand wave too, right? Unfortunately. And that's the form of succession, mainly because our medical is so much better than it was 100 years ago. Our medical system is so much better than it was 100 years ago. Queen Elizabeth lived till 95, which is pretty obscene, right? I hope I can live to 95. But at the same time, I'm definitely not going to be the same person at 95 I am today. Or even 10 years ago, I'm not the same person as I was today. For better or worse. It's just the way that it goes. Yeah. So, definitely, arguably, Charles should have become king maybe 30 years ago. She should have been a queen for 40 years and then handed off to one of her kids, who then hands it off to one of his kids, right? But now he is 72 instead of 42, and it shows. It shows. And for guys, obviously, guys generally die younger than women, so he might only have 10-year reign before he basically hands it off to his kids, which would kind of suck, but that's just the way that it goes. Yeah. Crazy stuff, guys. Oh, another She-Hulk hate. I gotta watch it. I'm gonna get my coffee, guys. I'll be right back. Righty, let's see what Critical Drinker is saying about She-Hulk today.
Mm-hmm.
Shaving seed used to improve sound. What? So it stops him from skipping, maybe? How long is this? We could watch OBF too. It's not a B1M, but still relatively good. Let's take a look at OBF.
This is a blueprint of Shinjuku Station, the busiest public transportation hub in the world. This structure stretches 1 kilometer through the Shinjuku district and facilitates 3.6 million daily commuters who utilize it to go to different parts of Tokyo. On its 5 main levels, you'll find one of 3 major means of traveling. For those on the go, Shinjuku boasts 3 subway lines that connect it to sister districts like Shibuya, Minato, and Chiyoda, all within minutes. Those using trains have their pick of 5 different railway companies that arrive and depart simultaneously, located throughout the station's 20 different platforms. If you're looking to travel long distances though, Shinjuku's impressive bus terminal hosts 1,600 long-distance travel lines that connect commuters to Tokyo and Greater Japan. It's a shining beacon of Tokyo's envious and ambitious infrastructure design, and what's crazier is the fact that this same formula is repeated throughout the megacity in different districts, all interconnected.
That's absurd, guys.
Design that's unmatched and quite frankly a masterpiece. Tokyo is not just
you could live there and never see everything
within a city.
That's insane.
The population measures 37 million people, meaning it's the biggest megacity in the world. And when you consider the tourists and visitors from other parts of
even
Japan,
more ridiculous.
The numbers are even higher. Tokyo has 50% more
Obscene.
people than any other urban setting globally. But despite the high population and never-ending movement, it has often been known as one of the safest cities in terms of infrastructure. City planners have not only found a way to make sure that the 3.9 billion yearly users who depend on the subway system get to where they need to go, but that they and others have alternative means of traveling through Tokyo on any given day. If you're walking, for example, each Tokyo district has what you need right around the corner. If not for a grocery store, there's tons of vending machines waiting for you. Even those on bikes, which make up 14% of all transportation in the city, have found a way to deal
buy anything in a vending machine in Tokyo. It's a true story.
Infrastructure. But
including
while
used
walking
panties.
is convenient and an entirely viable option, 57% of travel in Tokyo is done through public transit, which can be compared to New York City's 58%, but that's where the comparisons end. Take a look at this 3D rendering of the Times Square 42nd Street subway station. It's no Shinjuku, but it's part of a public transport system that is quite shockingly bigger than Tokyo's. Seriously, the New York City subway
in distance,
has 34 lines
maybe?
And 468 stations, all servicing 4 boroughs, namely Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. But bigger doesn't always mean better, and that's definitely the case here. Because despite its size, it comes second to Tokyo's annual passenger frequency. This is possible because Tokyo's system, while much smaller, is way more efficient. It's the result of a necessity that grew over time as people flocked to the big city and space decreased. The flexibility and constant work on each transport system and the insane $200 billion annual budget for Japanese public construction from 2013 to 2023, which is 40% of their entire GDP by the way, make Tokyo a brilliantly built city, but it didn't get there overnight. After the end of World War II, Japan, like many other countries, had to rebuild its nation. However, Japan didn't have access to oil reserves and expensive auto transport systems, which led to the auto boom in countries like the United States. So the Japanese government, in collaboration with private companies, invested in railway lines instead in an attempt to connect Tokyo's more suburban areas with the city center. Combine this with the historically lower income of Japanese households and the demand for solid public transit grew. This completely left the car as a means of transport in the dust. Hence, it's no wonder the average car ownership per household in Tokyo is 0.56, which is shockingly low for a developed urban area in comparison to a city like Chicago that has a car ownership rate of 1.12 per household. Betting on public
Per
transport
household.
was a risky move
Wait, what?
that paid off for Tokyo, as it's one of the few examples
Yeah, no,
of a
okay.
system that is practical and profitable. I know, you're probably thinking the same thing as me. Public transport and
Per
profit
household is
are
different too,
words that
because
don't
Japan
ever
has
appear in the same
multi-generational
sentence.
households.
But in the
So it's
case of
different than the
Tokyo,
US, which is
they
generally
do.
a single
And to achieve
generation in a
this,
household.
Tokyo city planners, collaborating with private builders and the government, made the idea of using cars
Sometimes you have
and
3
taxis
generations
to
of
get
single
around the
household.
city as
Yeah.
unattractive as they possibly could get
And
away with.
Asia
Just
in
look at
general.
Tokyo's traffic.
A lot of
It's
places
a
in the world
nightmare
actually have
that can pretty
multi-generational
much only
households.
be compared to the long hours spent navigating LA's infamous road congestion. Although Tokyo is worse for a very simple reason. Take a look at the Shuto Expressway of Greater Tokyo. The winding and overlapping roads mimic the US's interstate highways, but with an extra feature. A feature that US highways rarely have: car tolls. Drivers along any expressway will run into a few of these. And these guys take 25 yen per kilometer, and add to that the 150 yen in initial fees. Oh, and there's a 10% consumption tax, so yeah. Even if you're going only 5 kilometers, you end up paying 300 yen or $2.6. And if you do that every day of every week of every year, it adds up. If you travel greater distances though, it requires expressway passes that could cost you as much as 14,000 yen or $120.
US has generally, well, used to have really good infrastructure as far as roads go. That used to be one of our, not even pride, it's just something everyone took for granted. But I'd say it's something their country's done really well.
And that's a good thing.
Up until recently, where people realize that they have to spend taxes to make it work, and then they don't want to do it anymore.
If one did want to make a swing at using a car to get around, they better have a lot of free time, because a train or subway will get you to your destination much faster than a car will, as transit vehicles run on a strict time crunch, operating
when they put
within
up the
a minute
gates.
of expected arrival or departure time. They're also super fast.
Assume the gates are there to prevent jumpers. It could also be because the station is so congested, people end up falling into the tracks.
And unpredictable roadblocks. So yeah, public transit is the way to go, and passengers only need one card to travel across Tokyo, the Pasmo card, which might
That's
sound
so
like
weird.
it should go without saying.
I don't know.
but
I haven't spent
before
an
the
inordinate amount of
2000s,
time
people
on
would
public
have to line
transit,
up
but you
in
just sit
huge
there and you stare
crowds
at
to
the
buy
guy's
tickets
crotch in
from
front of you.
different train and
Yeah,
subway
just zone out and
companies.
stare at the guy's
Only
crotch.
Pasmo card collaboration has solved
Yes.
this issue, while also leading to a shared railway system that has only unified Tokyo's great infrastructure further.
When
Now,
in Tokyo,
you might be
guys.
thinking that Tokyo's subway and rail systems are simply too technologically advanced to be compared to cities like New York. But what Japan is doing is pretty basic. It's not alien technology, it's just common sense. I mean, look at this train from a terminal in Minato, Tokyo, coupled with this one in Chicago. Or what about this subway in Shinjuku paired against this one in New York? They look alike. The difference lies in what they are connected to, as well as the maintenance that these systems are taken through daily. See, most of Tokyo's stations are empty through the night, even the one in Shinjuku, which makes it the perfect time to do the mandatory nightly inspection. Yep, you have me right, the subway tunnels and tracks are checked every night. Minor damages are fixed, while major ones are reported and alternative
Japan
routes are
is very
chosen. But
cyclical.
Tokyo goes
They
even
love their
further than this by doing a thorough
what would you call it?
dismantling and inspection of all
Daily
their train
grind?
cars every 4 years. The cars are stripped down by hand, and all parts are tested for malfunction.
Looks like he has
before
really
they're
waxy
cleaned
skin.
and put back together. It's a highly coordinated effort that ensures accidents along these stations, tunnels, and railways are kept to a minimum, and unforeseen damages that cause downtimes are
Schedule?
therefore virtually non-existent. Oh, and let me just quickly mention the Shinkansen, Tokyo's bullet train, that has a maximum operating speed of 320 kilometers per hour. making
High-speed
trips
rail in the
out
US?
of Tokyo at
Nah.
once. A commuter could board a Shinkansen in Tokyo and arrive at the Shin Amori station in northern Japan in just 3 hours and 20 minutes. The same can't be said for Amtrak's Aquila train, which is currently the fastest train in the United States, and it does the same distance of 713 kilometers from Boston to Washington in 7 hours. So all in all, Tokyo is really well
speed down.
designed and
Yeah, what's the
connected
speed?
in an efficient way. And while it can look chaotic sometimes from an outside perspective, like when you watch videos of their crosswalks, it's really the exact opposite. Everything is well thought out down to the smallest of details, and everything seems so coordinated. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Very cool. As long as people abide by the signals, Still outside. It's horror, guys. Whenever a cricket ends up inside, that's absolute horror. It just goes and hides somewhere and then just tweets constantly at you. It's like fucking Twitter. Just tweets constantly at you and you just want to kill it.